I don't know what that was, whatever it was that just happened. I got thrown off and back on. Isn't technology amazing? Like kids, doesn't do anything that you want to. No, I'm kidding.
Chef, I have a question.
Perfect.
It's kind of a smart aleck question though, so I'm going to preface that on the front end.
Well, this, I'm not, never mind. I was going to say this is a smart aleck class, and it's really not. It's just me that's the smart aleck in the class. So it's probably very fitting anyway. So a good way to start this evening.
And so the recipe for the Brazilian shrimp stew, which was fantastic, said to dice the tomatoes and save the seeds. So what am I supposed to do with the seeds?
So,
or does save mean like de-seed the tomatoes?
So it can really, it can mean two things as far as Brazilians are concerned. One is save, maybe we would better use the word reserve, remove. But while Brazil geographically is a very large country, especially north to south, and has a lot of different climates, most of the country is subtropic, and you know, well, it's not just our practice. This is practiced all over the world. A lot of the produce there is what we would consider heirloom or open source. And so another reason to literally save the seeds would be to use those seeds to plant in the next season or the upcoming planting season, whenever it is that you use those. You know, we're blessed and we're cursed in this country with this same thing. We get food from all over the world, and we have a pretty intricate, complicated distribution system. And you know, meat and seafood for this week. We have a Wednesday evening class, and everybody got an email earlier today. San's shaking her head. I hope you got it. You probably went and visited the school already.
I did, and they told me to wait until tomorrow after work to pick it up. But when do you want me to pick it up?
After 1.
After 1 o'clock on
Yes.
Wednesday or tomorrow?
Tomorrow or Wednesday morning, if mornings are better. Wednesday morning is great. It doesn't, just after 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay, because they told me I could come after I get off work tomorrow. So, and I get off at 3.
My point is, for meat and seafood this week, we have live lobster being flown in, and
Right.
not something in other parts of the world that is going to happen unless you are the richest of the rich of the rich. You know, you're just going to get product that's in your local area. And so Brazilians, it's very customary. I'm going to scoop the seeds out of a cucumber and save those seeds. Instead of eating them, I'm going to save as many of those seeds as possible and try to plant them. The country, it's a second world country. It's really third world in about half of the country, but it's first world in other parts of the country with technology, and Brazil is poor. It's much poorer than the United States, poorer than Arkansas. And Arkansas is one of the poorer states in the United States. And so anything that can help me get by a little bit. And that moqueca recipe, I've I've used, I've carried, I've not paid attention to every single word on the page, but it's a translation from Brazilian Portuguese, and so that could have been Andy, just a word that I overlooked. You know, sometimes you take for granted what you understand may or may not always, translate to everybody else. And saving the seeds is both of those things. I think for our purposes, just like when we do a concasse, we want to get rid of the seeds. The seeds don't have a place in the recipe. The skins don't have a place. But in the everyday, just in the Brazilian grandma's house, they're just going to chop up tomatoes, skin, seeds, and all, and toss it in there, and no harm, no foul.
And then I made the mistake of not sauteing the veggies. It didn't hurt the outcome, but didn't saute them in the coconut oil because the recipe, I think, called for a tablespoon of coconut oil. And I got to the end and I'm like, okay, where am I using this? And I never saw it mentioned in the recipe itself. And I thought, well, maybe it's understood that if it's listed up there, that's what you're going to saute the veggies in. So anyway, I think that's on me.
Well, that's also that's a valid comment for everybody to take away. Paying attention to the verbiage of the recipes that we write, and even if we take a recipe and modify it, the words that we put down on the paper matter, and what we may assume or take for granted. My wife, many years ago, was a pattern tester for some of you may be familiar with this company called Leisure Arts.
Oh, yeah.
It was in North Little Rock, and one of the things that they sell, I don't know if they're still in existence or they sold, was cross stitch patterns. And so she was part of a group of pattern testers before they would send stuff out, print them and send them out in stores, make the kits and all of that. Those patterns had to be tested, follow exactly the directions as they're written, and document, okay, direction line 3, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, blah, blah, blah. And it was one of a step of reviews. And, I'm terrible about, throwing out a recipe and there's no reviews and no editorial, and you get sometimes y'all see my emails. Every last one of you have seen at least one or two, a dozen, 5 dozen emails that have the typos and whole words left out and letters transposed. And, I use Grammarly now because of my dissertation. I've now officially entered phase 4 of 6. By the way, that's my big announcement. I use Grammarly, which I love and hate, because it's almost like a virus on your computer. Everything that you write, it then slows down and has to go through the editorial thing. And I have so many fat finger mistakes. And anyway, Andy brings up a point that I think we all should pay attention to for just future reference. You're all going to be called on, whether you become chefs or not, just working in this industry, doing anything in this industry. A local magazine, a local little publication, to the DEMGAS, to statewide, 1 or 2 of you may end up writing for a national publication, and the words that we put down on paper, we want to be sure that while they may make sense to us when we write them, we want to be sure that we're not taking certain directions and using words that mean things that we take for granted. Anyway, there you go. Good point. Good questions. Andy, I don't think that was at all smart aleck. Not even one bit. So anybody else have some humor to start the class with? No, should we just dive right in? We'll look at your plates. That could be humorous. Thank you for the courtesy laugh. Sand doesn't think so. I could see that in your eyes. All right, just a moment. Here it comes. All right, are we there? Do you see it?
Yes, Chef.
Good. Let's dive right in. Plate number 1, success, suggestions.
It looks good. I like it. And it's per the instructions where it's separated out. And you can tell, well, some of the carrots are the same size. I can see that.
What do we call that? What do we call that, Sand? What's the, it's the word?
I'm gonna tell you, if you hadn't said it, I would have told you. It's
Y'all have heard every last one of you. This word for me.
Is it Pisan or oblique? It looks like Pisan, but it looks too fat for the Pisan.
It's a fat lozenge.
Lozenges. That's it. Yeah.
But when you have cuts, these classical cuts. So number one, to this student, kudos for doing that kind of cut, a precision cut. Kudos. But let this be an example, maybe for everybody. Validate something that you've heard me say. Now we see this in application. Consistency, consistency, consistency. We want consistent because it shows skill. We want consistent because they'll cook evenly, all of those cuts. We want consistent because consistent cuts look impressive on the plate. And when you have inconsistent cuts on the plate, doesn't that kind of stand out?
Yes, Chef.
Okay, so I'll shut up again.
I mean, other than that, to me, it looks good. Is that, I can't tell, is that cornbread? On the end with the sauce? I can't tell.
Your classmate that prepared this plate is not currently on the call with us, so I'm not going to call anybody out by name.
Okay.
When I saw this plate in Blackboard, it's a much smaller view, and the photo is turned. And so this right over here was on the very bottom of the screen, much smaller. And I left a comment, because this person used different cuts of meat. It used the meat that was picked up from the culinary school, but also added some ribeye and maybe some strip. I don't remember. There are 2 or 3 different cuts of meat in here at the same time. And at first glance, I thought this was a very dry piece of meat. And
oh, you did?
As I did, as I blew this up, though, now I asked this person, hey, is that cornbread? Kudos for making some cornbread, which would go with this meal really, really well.
It certainly will. Yes. That or my hot water cornbread.
Southernizes it. But what we call that, what can we call this? We can call this French,
Southern.
French Southern soul fusion.
Yeah.
But I think it's also clever that if that is cornbread, to be the vehicle for the
Mhm.
broth, because
Right.
that was one thing that I was trying to figure out, how to put the broth on there without it being
I
all over.
agree.
So I think that was clever, actually, if that's cornbread.
Because I thought about making some sourdough, like little sourdough croutons or something. And then I got lazy and decided not to, not to do that. But I was like, I was having the same struggle. Like I had this idea in my head and then I was like, well, this isn't quite what like with my broth and stuff, this isn't quite what I wanted it to look like. So I had to kind of like redo my initial plating idea.
Notice, pretty sure that this is rice. How clean this looks, and the sprinkle of pepper.
Very clean.
Sometimes the sprinkle around the whole plate serves a purpose, or it looks good. Sometimes you want to break up all of the white, but sometimes you can accomplish the color contrast and still keep the plate clean. It's just a way. One's not everything that we're talking about with plate presentation each week. There's not really one thing is better than the other thing, blah, 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 just general things to talk about. What else about this plate? Anyone? We've reached
Oh, now this is
semester.
clever.
Yeah.
We've reached a point now in the semester. We know each other's tables. We know each other's plates that we're using. We know the tablecloths that we're using. I'm still not going to call anybody out.
But we decided last time that we were going to make Kathy plate in a different class because she's on her own level.
Yes, we
That
did.
is really clever.
It's so cute. Look, like the little onion with the sauce in it. Look, I mean, that's just so cute.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it really is. And is that bacon? Yeah, it is.
Right there on the front of the plate.
Yes, it is.
That's why. So she sent two different angles, and I chose this one because it's just right there.
Yeah, just make you
Well,
want to grab it.
I know.
Mhm. And I love the sauce. It looks like two different sauces, isn't it? Yes.
Kathy, would you mind describing what you did?
Yeah, so it is two different sauces. The runny is the broth right out of the stew, and then the darker is a balsamic glaze, because I
Ooh,
was
nice.
just making it pretty.
Kathy, you
But-
having all dinner?
What was that?
I said, when are you having us all come over for dinner?
Well, I have to say, actually, this plate looks prettier than it tasted. The meat was really dry, and I think Chef is right in that I probably seared it a bit too long. So
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. It's just,
It doesn't look it, but hey, okay.
well,
Now
yeah.
we're gonna go with what you say.
yeah, and I cooked it in the crock pot, which I was actually going to try to cook it in the oven, but I think maybe I probably overdid that too. So I think it looks better than it actually tasted, in my opinion. My husband ate it though, and he liked it, and he had it for leftovers.
How did you like this with the balsamic?
With the what?
Well, so
Balsamic?
you've got the balsamic glaze that you use.
Right.
Balsamic is a strong vinegar. It's a strong flavor. It can be overpowering. It's like rosemary. It's very, very easy to overdo rosemary, and then it suddenly takes over your palate. how did the balsamic work with the sauce of the bourguignon and everything?
Yeah. So, well, my sauce from the stew was really acidic also. So,
You mentioned that.
yeah. So I guess when I ate it in pieces and not really mix the balsamic so much with the stew itself. So, yeah, I don't know. And then my husband ended up just eating a bowl of it by itself and not all deconstructed. So,
If we can all take a moment maybe to do somewhat of a comparative analysis. So Kathy did this in the crock pot, and Andy, not to call you out, but I think it was you. I'm trying to remember everybody's, the taste thing where most of you are describing what you did. You did yours in the oven, right?
I did, yeah, combination stove and oven.
Okay. So how did you use the meat from the culinary school?
I did not because, so I think I did this Wednesday night and my meat looked kind of gray. I was concerned about it. So I actually went to the store and got some more.
Okay. Kathy, did you get different meat, or did you use the meat from
no,
the culinary school?
I used the meat from the culinary school.
Okay.
And it may have been okay, chef. I just, like I said, it was no longer red. And so I was just slightly concerned. And my wife was more concerned than I was. So
I'll tell you why, Andy, and this may be a good, something to jot down or just remember in the back of your mind. Beef, especially once it's gone in the freezer, when it comes out of the freezer, if we keep it in, its vacuum sealed bag or the Ziploc or whatever it's been, stored in when it was originally frozen, and allow it to slow thaw, then it's myoglobin. That's what's in the ground beef and the steaks that you buy, which is part of blood, but it's not blood. When we thaw underwater, either running some cool water and having a constant cool water flow with the frozen bags to quick thaw. Unfortunately, because of space and just being organized, I will tell you, at the culinary school, we rely on quick thaw way too much, and we're thawing in water. And so while the meat takes on a very pale appearance, it's pale because of the amount of water that was surrounding it that pulls out additional myoglobin that's present within the meat fiber, if that makes sense. And so, I picked some up as well, and I just stuck it back in the freezer. I've not done this yet. It's in my freezer, just in a Ziploc bag. It's going to get freezer burned probably, unless I go do something with it. But yeah, that's what happens. So I'm pretty sure when I picked mine up, it was in the tubs that we usually thaw things in, and there was a lot of water in the tub, and these packages of this stew meat was already open, and so there was water in and out and in and out, and so that's what gave the meat a very pale appearance. But at the same time, Andy, you did the right thing. It should be the whole industry. number one rule when it comes to is the food safe or not? When in doubt, throw it out. It's much safer. We don't want waste, and so we want to handle it properly on the front end, blah, 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 blah. But it's always safer when in doubt, throw it out. So anyway, if I could, if Kathy, you don't mind if I share some of the comments that did you see already? I know it was this afternoon. I left comments as I graded these.
Yeah. Yep. I saw your comments.
So one takeaway is, sometimes we use the squirt bottles or, there are saucing spoons. There are special saucing spoons that you might be introduced to in Food 3 that's almost like a calligraphy quill, but they're really fat and with a narrow tip. And that's for you to actually write on the plate in sauce. And that's used a lot for really, really pretty intricate designs that are easily replicated from one plate to the next plate to the next plate, all looking the same. The viscosity of whatever sauce we use is incredibly important. And so, here, none of you are able to see the drawing. And I'll have y'all know, Kathy does some incredible artwork, just drawing the plate designs before we ever get to this point. So kudos to Kathy for that. Yay. If the viscosity is, and sometimes it's just, reduce it another minute or two makes a difference. To get that sauce, whatever it may be, tight enough so that you squirt it on the plate and it holds exactly its place right where you put it, and not run all together. We want to be mindful of the viscosity of the sauce with the design of our plate, how we want to use the sauce, and kind of take into account, well, the sauce may run just a little bit. And sometimes what we end up executing isn't exactly plan A. In my world, it's I usually make it all the way to plan W or plan U squared, or something like that. And the other, what, I agree with y'all. This is really it's interesting. It's clever. This is a dish where you want as much of this sauce as possible. I gave you a whammy in asking you to deconstruct a stew, and a key component of eating the stew is all of the sauce that's there that goes with it. My only question for the whole peanut gallery, for everyone to keep in mind is this something, using the shallot, you can tell that it's been cooked, seared, was it roasted? But it's been cooked, so that it's not just raw layer of shallot to be used as a sauce boat. Is this something that I can do quickly on a busy restaurant line that I've got to get done and out to the table really quick, or in a large plated buffet or plated banquet? We've got 200 plates, and we've got to serve this as a course, and it's got to go out. All 200 plates need to leave the kitchen in about 10 or 12 minutes. These are things that we run into every day, depending on the places where you may land and you may work. And so consider that. I know we only have a couple weeks left of plate presentation. There's going to be another plating challenge today or this week. I'll get to that in a second. Anything else on Kathy's plate? All right, next victim. So we're going to say plate A is on the left, plate B is on the right. You can cast your vote, and polls are open for the next 45 seconds.
Okay, I think you said plate B was on the right.
I was just, Andy started the whole night off with we have a sarcastic moment, and I just jump right in to the pool.
Like part of that, I like the plate that has the little dollops of carrots because I think it adds some extra color. But I like on both plates how they did the little sprinkling of the herbs or whatever because it needed that color.
A little more color.
And I would have put the potatoes that's on the B onto the A. And I like the oblique carrots, right?
Good.
I like that. And I like how they did the height on A.
I forgot what A and B is. So you
A
like
is to
this
the right.
height?
I like the height of the potatoes, yes, there, but I would have put it over on the other one.
You would have put these potatoes on this plate?
Yes.
Good idea.
And
Actually-
I like the initial M, well, it looks like M with the
Yeah.
sauce.
I like the plating of the sauce also. I think that's a great consistency.
Mm-hmm.
This
Sure.
one?
Yes.
Well, either one
Either one.
really.
Yeah, the sauce looks good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I like the additional color of the herbs on the plate.
Mhm.
So, what are we saying? Most of us, I guess, take these potatoes
Yes.
from the plate on the left
Mm-hmm.
and move those potatoes onto the plate on the right.
Yes.
Okay. What draws you to the plate on the right?
The sauce and the carrots.
Color.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pureed carrots
Yes.
pop
Yes.
on an already monochromatic.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to adds some oomph. And actually, the dusting of herb here might be a little bit much. And here is on the plate on the right is not quite as much, but it's covered everywhere. And so that's can you see where, at half a gram, I mean, one more zhuzh, just a little zhuzh like that. Oh, that was too much. And it's not very sanitary, but I'll tell you something that happens in kitchens every day. We plate this that's on the left, and the sous chef or the executive sous chef, the chef de cuisine, or even the executive chef, right before this plate leaves the kitchen, I'm going to pick it up and I'm just going to blow it, which is not at all sanitary, not at all. But it happens every day, just to blow off a little extra and keep it random. When we do this at the culinary school, when I'm working the line, I know when Dr. Burris, who is teaching the front house, the dining room operations class, when he's working on the service side of the pass, we'll with gloved hands, we'll just take a thumb or an index finger and wipe a few away, and we'll make a pile of them on the table, and we'll wipe those off later after, but we'll take just a few off, because in the speed of service, really you're getting your herb. You know, y'all are going to get more and more accustomed to this feel right there. You've got all of your herb finely minced, and it's sitting in a deli container, and you grab a little pinch, and it's like an Emerald Lagasse, bam, bam. And it's pretty random. And when there's piles a little too much, we just kind of blow. We don't blow it off with our breath. That's that's not sanitary. But I agree with everybody else. So good job. I think Andy already left you that same thing. This too was my preferred plate. And my only suggestion would be round presentation of the potatoes. And it could be the angle of this picture. It looks like a square.
It is.
And that's hard to accomplish and keep, go back to your, food one, all of us go back to food one, and the knife straight up and down and perfectly symmetrical cuts and 90 degrees and all of that. There's a reason why most all of our ring molds are exactly that. They're rings. It's round. We like round. We like to see round. It's easier to have a clean round than it is to have a clean square. And so sauce looks great. I hope it tasted good.
So the sauce was just fantastic. Now, I did use almost a full bottle of Burgundy, but it was, we had it 2 nights. I made enough for probably 4 people. And we had leftovers, and it was as good leftover as it was the first time.
We should have done this week, because it's cold this week, or it's cooler this week than before, and this is a nice hearty. I hope y'all enjoyed the week.
Well, and I think I told you, Chef, that we're having a dinner party this weekend, Saturday. My wife had already, this was a month ago, she said, I want you to make beef bourguignon. And so I was really excited when that came up in the queue for us this week to practice it for next week.
And you don't have to deconstruct it, which is even better.
No, it would take too long for me.
Okay, this week is a dry cooking method. If y'all haven't or have, Sands already got the confused kind of look on her forehead. Chef, what you talking about? What are you talking about, Willis?
I thought this was deep fried.
It is.
Okay.
Deep fry is a dry cooking method.
Okay.
Why?
No
It's
water.
not water.
There's no water. It's just oil.
But the oil is liquid.
But it's not water though.
So, is a wet cooking method just water? Stock, which is made from water, wine, poached pears in a red wine. That's a wet cooking method.
But those all have water in them, I think, in some form, don't they?
Poach your shrimp in just white wine. It's not water per se that makes a wet cooking method wet. It's liquid, it's moisture. But there's some physics that's going on that makes deep frying, which is in liquid oil, liquid shortening.
Mhm.
There is some specific physics that's going on that makes this a dry cooking method. You're going to deep fry at home, so excuse me, I wanted to put this slide up. A thermometer. I'm not asking y'all to go out and buy a candy thermometer or a high temperature thermometer of some kind. But some of even the thermometers we wear, some of them have a 550 degree range. Some have, if you pictures up at Walmart, it only goes to 220. You'd have to buy one of the dial head thermometers. You'd have to buy the kind of flat, long candy thermometer to get you a temperature of 400 degrees or higher. And it is best to use something like that when we deep fry, even at home. If you're deep frying in a large saucepan, if you're deep frying in a stock pot, if you're deep frying in a Dutch oven, anything that has kind of tall sides is going to be good. Slotted spoon, a spider. Y'all know what I mean by a spider? It's kind of round like a spoon, but it's all woven and it's kind of a wire head. You want high temperature oil. Well, I think that's the next slide. Some of the things that you'll be working with in this week. We were dealing with some other things and some meat and seafood product for next week. And so I didn't get a chance really to see what product you have for this week in this class. San, did you pick up, product today?
Yes,
Did you
I
get
did.
cod or did you get catfish?
I got catfish and I got something else. I know I got some catfish and then I got something else too. I didn't really look at it.
Okay, there might be cod in there as well.
That may be what that is because it was kind of a little square piece. I bet it is.
Either that or I'd be surprised if you got halibut. But
Yeah, I would too, but hold on, let me go look right quick. Let me go get it.
You can see these temperatures. These are temperatures at optimal temperature for deep frying. I disagree. I disagree with the French fries. We learned that in Food 1. We talked about that. We did this in Food 1. Your blanch or first fry of your potato, of your French fries, really should be about 325 degrees. And then your second fry should be at or above 375 degrees. That's best. Yes, and I can't tell what that is. It's cod.
I think it's cod because this is the catfish.
That's going to be good too. So I'll post this like before, and you can go back and refer to these slides and look at these if you want. You have a variety of options, variety of things to deep fry. The menu, the intention for this week is to do kind of a high-end fish fry. And so catfish is a dry dredge. We'll talk about dredging. If you got the cod, you got a couple of potatoes. Sam, did you get a couple of potatoes?
2. Yep.
Yeah. So you could have some pretty English traditional fish and chips. And if you're going to do fish and chips, your potatoes to be traditional, your cod, that is traditional fish and chips, needs to be a beer batter. And that's
Right.
one of the recipes that you have. Your cod should be beer battered, and your French fries should be cut about a pont neuf. These, English fish and chips are more like steak fries. They're
Mhm.
fries. They're not little McDonald's fries. But you do whatever it is that you want. You should have gotten maybe some zucchini, some squash, maybe
That's zucchini.
maybe some fresh green beans.
Mine were actually frozen string beans, but I put them back. I put them in the freezer as soon as I got home to keep them. Yeah.
Just save those in the freezer. Jen is really, really busy, has a lot of things on her plate. We had a discussion about this a couple of weeks ago. For this class this week, you were supposed to get fresh green beans, and not the frozen ones. They are not going to deep fry very well. They will be absolutely mushy if you try to deep fry these frozen and then thawed green beans. That's
not gonna work. Yeah.
And don't go run out and buy. The idea for this week was to do a little dry dredge, hence your catfish, is to do a beer batter, maybe onion rings. San, did you get an onion?
I did.
Yeah. Maybe some onion rings, the cod, a beer batter, but also a tempura. And you have recipes for all of this. And tempura is based on Asian cuisine, very, very common in Chinese and Japanese food. And it's a very, very lighter version of just a batter. It's a different kind of batter. And to tempura batter a lot of fresh vegetables, to deep fry some zucchini sticks, cut your zucchini in about a baton, 1/2-inch square, times whatever length you want, and then dip in the tempura and deep fry that. Very nice. You want your general deep frying is going to be at 350, really needs to be closer to 375. If you can get it that hot on your stovetop, and I know you can, the exactly which oil to use is going to be very important for you to safely deep fry at home. This is one of those things that to do this poorly can be unsafe. And holidays are, I don't know, I haven't heard Christmas music on the radio yet, but I listen sometimes to pot stirring talk radio and don't get some of the radio stations we listen to at home. The Christmas music should be starting about any minute now because Halloween was yesterday. Doesn't all the Christmas music start about November 1st? I haven't heard any yet, but I would hate for someone to burn their house down any time of the year, but especially now. And so your safety in the kitchen is paramount, is just as important as your the quality of your food product. You'll have better quality of deep fried food the higher the temperature of your oil. And I think the next slide will look at different oil types and their smoking point. I highly, highly recommend canola oil. Canola oil has a smoking point at about 460 to 470 degrees. That's the temperature it will reach when it starts to burn up. And I'm not talking about ignite and catch on fire. And so if you're deep frying at 375 degrees, That oil is going to last a long time with a smoking point above 450, and is going to be safe. If you're deep frying at 375, but you're using an oil that has a smoking point that's close to 400 degrees, that is not an oil. That may be a good sauteing oil, but that's not a good deep fry oil. The temperature is going to be so high for so long. Those high temperatures, look on this slide. This is important. We want crust formation to start almost immediately. That's the thing that makes this a dry cooking method, is temperature is evaporating almost instantly water, start surface water. Remember when we made the French fries in Food One, blanched the fries, and those of us that did Food One in person at the culinary school, we blanched the fries in a low temperature fryer, 325, let those cool. The cooling, it wasn't about lowering the temperature. The lowering of the temperature of the potato changed the starch structure, changed the sugar structure a little bit, but allowed more water to leave the core to the surface. Then we drop those fries in a high temp deep fryer, and it goes wild and crazy until all of that water goes away. When that crust starts to form, that creates an airtight barrier. And so you're getting crust, and it is residual heat. It's surface heat that is cooking the internal contents of, these onion rings. It is not the oil. It is not the liquid that's cooking the onion inside the onion rings. Hence a dry cooking method. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Put your potatoes in boiling water. It's boiling water that permeates the potato, that permeates the rice. It works its way into the pasta. Hence the water, the temperature of the water is doing the cooking. In the deep fry, it's just the temperature all around the potato or the meat or the fish, or on this picture, it's the onion rings. There should be almost no oil that makes its way inside that onion ring. It does that when the temperature of the oil is too low. When the temperature of the oil is too low, the oil penetrates.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a French fry that's soggy and greasy, and that's when you get fried chicken that is greasy, oily fried chicken. The temperature of the oil is not high enough. Make sense? So we buy commercially, we buy 35-pound boxes. There's a plastic container inside the box. You can go to Sam's and you can buy these at your home. And I promise you, these prices, a blended 75% cottonseed, 25% canola deep fry shortening, deep fry oil is not $50. They're running now. This is an old slide, but the temperatures are right. The shelf life, and these shelf lives are based on a restaurant. You kick your deep fryer on in the morning, and that deep fryer is on most all of the day, or it just goes off after a day part for the fryer to be cleaned. You do it again. Well, if you use this canola oil, for example, or most common is going to be a blend. So if you get this one on the bottom of main problem with the blend is the low temperature. Again, I prefer the canola. Look at how high the canola will go before the oil itself starts to burn up. Minimal taste. You don't really get taste. It has a little shorter shelf life. If I have my fryer on every day, most all day long, I'm going to get about a week out of one fryer. Now, a 35-pound box, to fill one fryer, 2 sides, 4 baskets, it takes 3 of these boxes. So what is that? 70, it takes 105 pounds of oil to fill one fryer. The sides. And imagine the culinary school with 1, 2, 3 in the gold lab, one upstairs in multi-purpose, one in Le Culinaire. I think that's all the fryers we have. At about $120 a box. Do the math. Just in fryer oil. That's expensive. See where our profit margin in the restaurant world is only about 4 or 5 cents, 3 to 5 cents. Everything's expensive. To extend this shelf life, it is very important that after you deep fry, every time you fry, even if you do this at home, let the oil cool completely and then turn it out in a mesh strainer or a little cheesecloth. All the little bits, all the little crumbs that sink down to the bottom, get rid of all of that. I transfer the oil back into, so I have an open container of oil for just general cooking, and I have a container of oil that's deep fry oil. And I don't fry very much, and so the amount of time between each frying, I get some pretty good life out of my frying oil at home. I'm a sucker for French fries, and so that's my nemesis. 2 main frying methods. What we are most familiar with is the basket method, and that's you're going to fry your French fries. You dump your potato into the basket, and you lower your basket into the hot oil. Everything that you do this week, and I would encourage you, if you're not familiar with this, I would encourage you to try an experiment, but don't curse me when you do this experiment. And if you have a Fry Daddy, for example, I'm dating myself a little bit because it used to be Fry Daddies, if you drop your battered cod, let's say, cut these into smaller pieces instead of this whole big chunk. Cut these in smaller pieces to do different things with. I want you to have one battered thing that you put in your basket, if you have a basket to fry in, and lower the basket down in the oil. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. It's going to get stuck to the basket. And you're not going to be able to use what gets stuck to the basket. Because things that are battered need to be, see here on the right-hand side, this person is pinching an item, and the swimming method is lowering it carefully into the oil and you actually swim it back and forth just a little bit, you see physically, you see faintly, you see a little of this crust start to form. And when that happens, it just takes a second or two. Then you carefully just lay it in the oil, and it may sink a little bit, but because you swam it at the beginning, that crust starts to form. And when it sinks to the bottom, it doesn't stick to the bottom. If you take it out of the batter and plop it into the grease, into the hot oil, it's going to sink to the bottom. It's going to stick to the bottom. So there's going to be, don't dip your fingers in so far that you're going to deep fry your fingertips. That's bad mojo. That means you may want to prepare a little bit of your batter. You got to wash your hands and then come back and get your item and batter it and right into the oil. Don't let a whole bunch of batter cake up on your fingers. I used to see this a lot. I've done it a few times. You get enough batter on your fingertips, you're in a hurry, you're not really paying attention what you're doing until all of a sudden that batter on your fingertips is getting really hot because you're about 2 knuckles deep in the oil.
Mhm.
It's going to take a minute to get all that off when you run to the sink to wash your hands, and you've got that hot oil burning into your skin a little bit. So please be careful with this, but practice both methods. Dry, dredged, dry product like your cut French fries, easily fry under the basket method. Dry would also be considered, even if it's battered, things that are already prepared, AP, and frozen. You know, you want to deep fry the already battered frozen fish patties. Fine, basket method. You this week will be doing some of your own battering. Wet batter, swimming method. I don't remember why I put this picture here other than take a look at what it looks like on the fry station of an everyday restaurant. Notice the color of the grease down here underneath the basket. That's really what you want. The darker this gets, the more the oil is burning. And you're going to reach a point, even if the temperature is high enough, you've just jeopardized the integrity of the oil, and you're going to make your product really, really dark and probably not cooked all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Also, regardless of temperature, old oil, spent oil, is going to make its way into the fish or your fried chicken or your fries or whatever it is that you're deep frying. And it's time to get rid of that. You got to bite the bullet and spend the money. If you're going to open a restaurant, oil is one of those things. Fry oil, you just need to have in your budget as a regular recurring expense, probably, at least 3 times a month. You're going to spend more in your deep fryer oil than you probably will in your water bill. For some restaurants, that's really going to be the case. Okay. Kind of review just a little bit. We looked at this. You covered this in food 1, but your standard dry dredge station. Now, catfish is one of those things that is kind of a magical deal all by itself. And you season some cornmeal, thaw the catfish, and just dip it dry right on the cornmeal. And that cornmeal is going to stick to the catfish, and you drop it right in the fryer, just like that. It doesn't need flour, egg, and then the final coating. whether that's breadcrumbs or flour or whatever it is that you use. However, you dip that catfish in the cornmeal, and when you go to fry it, you're going to end up with a lot of cornmeal that stays in the fryer, stays in the, again, making it so important to drain and filter that oil before you use it again. Here's a look. So maybe you can gauge if your tempura is working right. This is a tempura battered shrimp. Of course, they're doing this in, I don't remember, the picture comes from Japan or wherever. They're using chopsticks. Y'all don't have to use chopsticks. If some of us use chopsticks, you're never going to get the zucchini sticks out of your oil, and then that's going to be just a terrible disaster. So here's a look. We'll kind of end up just briefly talking about some plate presentation. This is kind of, you're going to go to England and you're going to get just a big platter of fish and chips. Here it is. This would not be England, however, because you're not going to get fish and chips with a big squeeze of ketchup. You might get with a bottle of malt vinegar and sprinkle malt vinegar and salt everywhere. And beer battered with the malt vinegar. I don't know, maybe y'all consider trying that this week and you can thank me later. Your challenge still for this class, high-end, gourmet, fine dining plating. How are you going to take a whole bunch of monochromatic, deep fried, this week's heart attack on a plate and make it fine dining? This is actually, I don't remember where this came from. But there's sort of an idea. This is from a restaurant somewhere.
Looks like Samantha's.
I don't know. These last two pictures come from this class, previous semester. Okay, online. So you kind of dated. It's going to be either last summer or last spring. But you have monochromatic, everything fried, and we try to line things up. I mean, this is a plating idea, certainly. This from one of your classmates in the larger culinary school. This person is still enrolled in the culinary school today. And she wouldn't mind if I threw her under the bus. I won't give you her name, but you culinary arts majors, this is from a pastry major. So, it's what you see. It's what you can create from concept to execution. And it's quite okay to spend a few extra minutes floating Google images. I think I've suggested this before. If you would look up fried fish platter, fried fish plate. When I'm looking for certain inspiration, I Google that thing for inspiration, and I always end with kind of the tagline Michelin star or Michelin chef. Michelin is worldwide the gold standard. Michelin, the same as the tires. They have a division of the company that is about travel. And that's where, Gordon Ramsay's restaurants, he has restaurants with 3 Michelin stars. 3 stars is primo. If you're looking at Michelin star awarded restaurants and their plate presentations, you're seeing some of the finest plating in the world. And so good place to get some inspiration. Fish platter, Michelin star, Michelin restaurant, deep fried fish, I don't know, stuff like that to get a little bit of inspiration. And that's all I have to say about that. So now what? Questions? Complaints? Y'all ready to go do some deep fry?
Yes, Chef.
I'm not sure. I'm not real great at frying food. I tend to make a really, really big mess, and it tends to not be very tasty. So I'm a little nervous this week. It's not my forte.
The as far as taste goes, the key is seasoning. If you're going to do beer batter, that still should be seasoned.
Okay.
If you're going to do a dredge, man, don't take your catfish and just dip it in cornmeal. It's bland. It's flavorless. If you're going to use Cajun seasoning, at the very least, there needs to be salt. This is one of those times where you need salt. Salt's going to bring out flavor. The beer batter, make sure that there's some salt in that batter. The tempura, make sure there's a little salt in that tempura. Some of these things are, tempura is really more about the texture. It's very light. It's crispy, but it's very light. Zucchini doesn't taste a whole lot like very much unless it gets a little seasoning as well before it goes in the tempura. Anyway, this is also a time to experiment. Christy, you may not have heard. I know I say this a lot in person, but and this may be one of those weeks for all of us. Culinary school is the place to experiment. Culinary school is the place to jack it up. This is the place to mess something up, and we learn from the mess up. Experiential learning is so much more longer lasting. It's so much better of a teacher than me just rambling on for an hour and 12 minutes. This is the place to experiment, to try. And, who knows, Christy, you may become converted to the heart attacks on a plate. I hope not. I hope we all make tasty food this week, but deep fry is one of those. It's a cooking method we need to know because it's used every day in our world.
Right.
Doesn't become an everyday in our kitchens at home.
Right. Well, I just figure if Popeyes does it so much better than I do, I'll just let them stink their kitchen up.
Except you are training to be the chef to do it the Popeyes does.
Yes.
So we got
I
to
like deep fried.
even if your end goal is not going to land you in a restaurant that deep fries. This is still an essential. It's still a basic cooking method that we
I
need.
get it. I mean, I can't be scared of it forever. I've got to at least can do like a few things appropriately so that, I feel that, and then poaching will be my next, because that's still gross, but I'll get there.
Practice makes
Perfect.
permanent. Remember, perfect practice. But the key is we have to do it multiple times. We don't always have to do it 100 times, but we have to do it a few times. If Andy will let me pick on him for a minute, the very first time making carrot puree, making pea puree didn't work exactly the way he wanted it to work. And try it again and try it again. And oh, this week during the doing the beef bourguignon and making a carrot puree for the plate, very good. Sauces don't always, okay, I need to try. Chef just says, let it reduce a little more. Oh, what does that mean? I'm looking for that. I need to go 3 more minutes or 12 minutes or what? And then experience becomes the teacher. I don't give up. I tried again. And in so many ways, Andy, in this regard, Andy had a great week this week by just, okay, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to try this again. And I'm going to try this again. Not that every carrot puree in the future is going to be spot on, because it won't. But much better probability of the viscosity of the sauce to be right so that it's going to lay and stay, and so on and so forth. So Christy, don't give up. Your first poach may not have ended up the way you like it, but the next time it will, or the second or third time it will. And deep fry is going to be the same thing. If you've had a not so great experience in the past, maybe this week we'll change it.
Maybe
This
already
week we'll reveal,
Yeah.
oh, this is what I need to do. This, anyway.
Right. Maybe that all the mess and all that kind of stuff, now that I kind of know how to manage things a little nicer, won't be so, because I made these like little potato, it was just, it caught on fire and the house stunk up, and I had to put the skillet outside and open windows. It was bad. So hopefully there won't be things like that. So
we don't want fires, especially with a deep fry. So everybody get your little home kitchen fire extinguisher and have it nearby.
yes.
Case, make sure you don't have your cloth towels right on the burner next to you. And are you going to get some oversplatter? Are you going to get some mess that you're going to have to clean up on your stovetop and maybe counter nearby? Sorry, I can't help with that.
Yeah.
But it'll be a good experience. I have faith in everybody. As always, if there are questions or problems or anything, please reach out. You're not left all alone. We're coming to the end. My last little announcement, we have scheduled, I've kind of hinted to this all along the way. You are invited to participate in a final practical exam as part of my doctoral research, like we did last spring with Food One. It is, I know some of you work, and I'm not asking anybody to get off work, but it will be Monday, December 6th. And it will go from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. In the Gold Lab. And that's when we can get the facility, we can get the space. I'll have all the ingredients. And if that doesn't work for you, that's fine. We'll still move on with the regular, you'll take the regular practical exam. But my bribery, if you're able to do this on the 6th, you'll be exempted. So in Blackboard, I'll enter an exemption for the practical exam and 50 bonus points. That's the high.
So what is it that we're going to be cooking? Is it
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's not a secret. It's not a secret practical exam. I'll be sending this out. Well, you're my only Food 2 class, so here you go. I'll just tell you now. You're gonna poach a piece of salmon. you are going to grill a ribeye steak to medium rare. You're going to sear a beef fillet to medium rare. And then you will take one of those proteins to create one entree plate. And that entree plate, there will be several options on the cart. I think there'll be some basmati rice, some arboreal rice, and some potatoes to give you kind of a risotto, plain rice, rice pilaf, mashed potatoes, roasted potatoes, boiled potatoes, some, lots of things you could do from a starch standpoint. There'll be several vegetables. I'm sorry, I'm answering somebody.
We can talk after it's over, Chef, if you don't want to hold everybody up.
Okay, well, I gave you the quick
Okay.
answer.
Okay,
I gave you the quick answer. We could talk after, but the vegetables for this plate, for your practical exam, it's gonna kind of be what produce we have. And for the most part, it's going to come from things that you've been working with anyway. There'll be bell peppers, there'll be zucchini, there'll be squash, there'll be fresh green beans. I would expect there might be some asparagus. I know right now there's beets and there's turnips. I don't know what we'll have come the first week of December. That's still a month away. And so those are the kinds of things. As we've done all this semester, the hope is that you would have one of those three proteins: sauce, starch, veg. Then I'm sorry, I just got sidetracked. I wonder now. Let me ask this to the masses of this class, because I know it would work for one other instructor. And yeah. What if this were held November 29th instead? It's still Monday. It's a Monday morning. It's a Monday morning. The time block would still be 9. We would start the clock. This is a 2-hour exam. Because I actually think that is what we're planning to do at the culinary school. I actually think it's the Monday we come back from Thanksgiving. So it's fall break and then boom.
I wouldn't be able to do either because I work during the day, so I wouldn't be able to make that at all.
And that's okay. There's still,
I just have to do mine.
you'll do yours at home.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Here's the issue for my doctoral research. In order for the study to have solid validity, reliability, and remove some very known or potential biases, then I can't be the one that grades, that evaluates the exam. hence an exemption for your regular practical exam. You'll just be exempted for that if you participate, see? It's the same thing. It's the same exam for online as in person, and it's going to be the same if you participate in the study or not. If you don't participate in the study, the exam will be graded by me, and you'll get your grade on your regular practical exam. All of you, pretty much everybody in this class that has been doing and performing and doing, you really don't have anything to worry about. You don't get the exemption, but still that's okay. The grading or the assessing, I will still be there, and I will give feedback as part of our class. But for my study, there'll be a couple of instructors from the culinary school, and maybe one or two that you won't know, who are certified American Culinary Federation practical exam evaluators. And they will be evaluating on a very static national standard. And there'll be numeric scores, and there'll be some kind of open-ended comments that they'll leave. And these evaluators don't know you from the in-person class. And so y'all heard me talk about this in Food One, what I'm doing, and this is an integral part of my study. I'm able to make the argument that online culinary arts has a potential if your level of productivity and performance and the in-person students, the students that are receiving in-person instruction, kind of come out. What's been happening in Food One is it's kind of equal. You know, some people do really well with this and not so well with that, and these people do really well and are superstars, and I leave it open to anybody. Also, I can't bias the research by saying, okay, from the online class, Kathy's good. This is not a 4-man scramble in a golf thing. So we can't say Kathy's going to do the plate presentation for everybody, and
Oh, darn.
Christy's going to grill the steak. We won't let her poach, but we'll have somebody else. It's not that kind of thing. And so whoever can is invited. We only have 2 Food 2 classes, so 100% can be there. And you've got people in this class who will get the recording, so they'll get this announcement, but won't be able to make it to class. And maybe they can do that Monday morning as well. Unless you hear different from me during the week via a course through Blackboard, a course message, let's go ahead and shoot for Monday, the 29th, November 29th. I want to leave it as available to as many as possible. And so there are about 6 or 7 in the in-person Food 2 class as well. And so this will be a good mix, and everybody will fit in the Gold Lab. And most all of you are familiar with the Gold Lab one way or another. And there we go. I'll send out a final sheet. That's more than a month away. Well, the 29th. No, we're getting there. So by next week, you should see here's what the final practical is. Good. Anything else?
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Chef.
Peace, love, and chocolate pudding.
And fried fish.
Fried fish. Night night.
Bye, y'all.